For N Srinivasan, the Supreme Court is expected to give their final verdict on the IPL fixing and betting scandal. Will Srinivasan be allowed to contest the BCCI elections? What about his franchisee Chennai Super Kings? And what about the BCCI's new amendment in its constitution? All those questions will be answered by the Supreme Court any time today. We are in fact joined in by Shivani Gupta joining us from the Supreme Court of India, Rasesh Madnani from the BCCI headquarters, as well as Boria Majumdar, who joins us from Kolkata, our consulting editor of sports. Let me come across to you, Rasesh, first. Just take us through what exactly is going to happen as far as the BCCI is concerned, because all eyes are in fact going to be, Rasesh, in BCCI particularly, all eyes are going to be on the Supreme Court. What really is going to be the judgment that the Supreme Court is actually going to pronounce? Just take us through this controversial amendment that we are actually talking about, 6.2.4. For the benefit of our viewers, what does this mean?
Yes, before I come to that, it's been about 17-18 months that this, case has been going on, and I've been speaking to the board officials yesterday, ever since the time this matter has been listed, and when you approach them, they're pointing upwards, heavenwards, just suggesting that it's the D-Day. There's a realization that there's been a paralysis in the BCCI in the past few months, and they're now looking at this judgment very closely. Everyone for and against Srinivasan is looking at this judgment closely. You pointed towards 624, the amendment that was made in 2008, that of course allowed Mr. Srinivasan to own Chennai Super Kings. Till that stage, no BCCI official was directly or indirectly allowed to have any commercial stake in any BCCI tournament. But that exception was made for IPL and CL T20. That's what allowed Srinivasan to own Chennai Super King, and that has been the heart of the entire debate, hasn't it? The Supreme Court has been consistently speaking about the conflict of interest situation with Mr. Srinivasan. He not just owns the BCCI, he also happens to head India Cement, which owns the Chennai Super Kings. Is also, of course, the chairman of the ICC as well. And there's one observation that the Supreme Court did make during the course of the proceedings was, heavens would not fall if a BCCI official doesn't own one of the franchisees. He would not continue to be could not hold one of the franchisees. They also asked Srinivasan to choose between Chennai Super King and BCCI. Would the judgment lean towards that? Does the evidences that are available to the court mean that the judgment would lean towards that? I think that is something that people are looking at very closely, because if Srinivasan is asked to choose between the BCCI and the Chennai Super Kings, it may well be a situation where he may be compelled to keep the BCCI and pass on the Chennai Super King owners to someone else, in which situation India Cement may possibly have to relinquish Chennai Super Kings ownership, which would be a massive development. So I think that is something that cricket observers will be looking at very
Let's see what the Supreme Court's decision is actually going to be in this case. Boria, an important point here is going to be what has the BCCI in general and Srinivasan's lawyers in particular have said in their defense in the court so far.
One, that Srinivasan has not directly benefited from conflict of interest. That is what was said, but then it was pointed out that 13 crores were disbursed to the Chennai Super Kings when Mr. Srinivasan was treasurer of the board, so there is a direct benefit there. And then Mr. Srinivasan's lawyers said, except that one instance. So that is a direct case of conflict of interest. Second, the BCCI's lawyers have said that he has been freed by the Mudgal panel of any wrongdoing, whether match fixing or spot fixing. But that was not the case in the first place. The case now is on conflict of interest. Never was Mr. Srinivasan directly indicted for spot or match fixing. Third, the BCCI is saying that at the 2008, when the amendment was passed, Sharad Pawar was at the helm of affairs. He allowed Mr. Srinivasan to own this team. Mr. Srinivasan, not on his own accord, passed the amendment. So this is the line of arguments that have gone on. And importantly, they have also said that certain other individuals, i.e. cricketers like Sunil Gavaskar, Ravi Shastri, Saurav Ganguly, also have a conflict of interest, to which Justice Thakur clearly stated that for a professional to be commentating to have a conflict of interest and for a business person or an entrepreneur to have a commercial conflict of interest is different.
But
so
Boria,
it's a very clear category. Yes, Santosh.
Boria, on the basis of pure facts, we here at Headlines Today are talking facts. On the basis of facts, you tell me, isn't it the case when the BCCI lawyers or Srinivasan's lawyer says that Mr. Justice Mudgal has found nothing against Srinivasan, isn't that technically incorrect?
No, when they say that there is nothing against Srinivasan for betting and spot fixing, they are right. Okay. You can say Srinivasan is indirectly indicted because of Gurunath Mayappan. You can say that that one clause where Srinivasan did not take action against a particular player, which is there in the Mudgal committee report. But Sanket, and here's the important point, Supreme Court is not only bothered about spot and match fixing. They are going far beyond that. They are saying the fans' faith is eroded, corroded. The BCCI is a public body which has failed to discharge public duty. Mr. Srinivasan is a public servant, and wrongdoing has been going on under his aegis, under his nose. Though he is not directly involved, the fact that he permitted this to go on, the fact that nothing was done, is in itself a failure on the part of the BCCI head honcho. So this is far beyond him being personally indicted, and that is at the root of the problem as far as I am concerned. It's real judgment day for the board. I see it as one. Conflict of interest will be at the heart of the judgment because that's where all the observations came from, despite the fact that the Mudgal Committee's terms of reference did not include the words conflict of interest. But it is a PIL, and in a PIL, the Supreme Court can bring in other issues of public importance, which is conflict of interest. Okay. Believe you me, it is a real difficult day for the board, because I don't see the board getting away scot-free from this, and I also see 6.2.4 being struck down, conflict of interest being struck down.
Let's wait for the judgment. Boria, let's wait for the judgment, but I really wonder where Shivani is gone, because she's at the Supreme Court.
No, Sanket, I'm not conjecturing. All I'm saying is, based on the observations, two things emanate. One, the Supreme Court is really interested in understanding the conflict of interest issue and taking steps to ensure the public faith or fans' faith is restored, which has been corroded because of the conflict of interest issue.
Boria,
so that's why I'm saying that from the observations of the court, this is the central point.
Okay, two sides of the argument there are always when representing in the court. We have heard what Boria, you were mentioning. I think we're losing that connection with you. Let me put that question to Rasesh till we fix Boria's audio-video link, and also try getting Shivani up from the Supreme Court. Let's see if we can get her to comment on this. Rasesh, just take us through what the prosecution's argument has been since the very beginning in this particular case. Rasesh, can you hear me? All right, we seem to be losing our connection with Rasesh as well as Boria Majumdar. We'll try going back to both and also try to get Shivani Gupta up, who will be joining us from the Supreme Court. Remember, we are in fact expecting a verdict in this case any time now. It could have huge implications as far as Mr. Gurunath Mayappan, Mr. N Srinivasan, as well as the fate of the Chennai Super Kings is concerned, and also the controversial 6.2.4 amendment of the BCCI, which gives proxy powers to Srinivasan to continue in some form or the other with the BCCI. Boria is back on the line with us. Boria, the other side of the argument, the two sides in a case, the prosecution and the defense. We have heard what you have mentioned has been the argument of the defense in this particular case, that is the BCCI. What really has been the argument on the other side, the prosecution's case?
See, the petitioner from day one is saying that Mr. Srinivasan is mired in conflict of interest. The petitioner is saying that Nalini Chidambaram and Harish Salve argued this point, that all the names in that sealed envelope should be given out. And that's a very important point, Sanket. Will the names come out of the players? Because so far only 4 names of the 13 have been given out by the Supreme Court, which are administrative officials, Srinivasan, Sundar Raman, etc. Will the other players' names also come out as part of this judgment, or will they be protected by the court? That's what the court has done. Because the petitioner is very clear. If the game has been brought into disrepute by a particular player, his name should be brought out in the open. They are saying if Mr. Srinivasan is involved in conflict of interest, if the board has tried to protect him, these should be struck down. They are saying Mr. Srinivasan cannot be at the helm of affairs when another probe is on, so he should be debarred from contesting the BCCI election. Now, whether the court will buy that argument or not, we don't know. Mr. Srinivasan's lawyers have tooth and nail opposed it. As Rashesh was saying, if I understand right, if it's a choice between CSK and the BCCI, for Mr. Srinivasan it's a no-brainer, he'll keep the BCCI. He's desperate to hold on to his position as BCCI president, which is what the petitioners want to strike down. So that's what they are arguing, that if a new probe committee is initiated, which might well be the case, then Mr. Srinivasan cannot contest till the time the probe committee submits their report on this investigation.
Okay, Boria Majumdar as well as Rashesh Mandani, thanks very much for joining us on this broadcast. We are expecting a Supreme Court verdict in this particular case. We'll stay on top of this particular story and all the developments right here on Headlines Today.